Hello everybody and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol reveal breakdown, and we have a lot of really exciting news for these first this first day of mini extravaganza. There's been a lot of really cool things revealed, including a huge rules update, which I'm so excited to dive into here. It sounds like they've made some huge changes that are really going to shake up the game a lot, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they all are, because honestly I've only kind of skimmed through it myself so far, and seeing how they're going to affect the table. I'm actually really excited about that. They also revealed a bunch of stat cards and things like that, which I am going to be going over in a separate video coming out today as well. So yeah, definitely stay tuned for that. I don't know which of the two videos is going up first. They're probably going to go up about the same time, but I figure I'm going to break it up into two videos because there's just so much stuff to cover. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started on this. So the rules update, November 2025, very exciting here. So let's just kind of get into it. So first things first is a change that they made to roster building here. The process for selecting your mission is changing. So now your roster is going to be bringing 5 secures and 5 extracts as opposed to the 3 that you were bringing before. That's definitely going to force you to pick a few more variety of options, which it seems like is exactly what they're going for here. And then they've changed the way that the mission is actually built. So you're going to randomly draw 2 of your crisis cards instead of 1. So you're still doing the random shuffle, and then your opponent's going to pick one of those cards to actually play. So you're giving some of that agency back to the other player, which I think feels really good. I think it's very similar to how it was when this game first came out. And I think that's going to feel a lot better for the opposing player, because a lot of the times I've definitely been in a situation where it's been, I really hate one scenario of their 3, and then of course that's the one they're going to pull. So having a little bit of agency there is going to give you a lot more control over a game that, in my opinion, I think it's going to lead to games where you're going to have closer, more fair matches where the objective doesn't so heavily favor one team over the other. So another huge change they made here is deployment. After all characters are deployed, the players roll to see who gets the priority token for the first round of the game. So priority for mission and deployment is no longer priority for first turn. This is going to be a massive change. You're gonna have huge decisions you need to make during that time frame, and it's going to be really interesting. Like your safe grabs now, you could set up for a safe grab, but your opponent can set up for the same safe grab, and it's going to come down to a roll to see which one of you is actually going to get it. So this is going to be really interesting in terms of how this is going to affect safe grabs and how many kind of plans and backup plans you're going to need for that. I think turn 0 just got really interesting in this game, and I'm really excited to see how that's going to work, having the kind of double priority roll. And now all of a sudden you're in this weird boat where, like, you almost want to lose the first priority roll because you're still going to have some say on their objectives, but you're going to be able to kind of counter deploy their safe grabs and things like that to plan for it. But then, of course, winning priority is still really good because then you're getting your objectives, and it's a really interesting process. I'm really excited to see how this is going to shake up the game, particularly these changes to round 0 list building and like deployment and setup are really interesting, and I think they're going to make the start of the game so much more fun and interactive, which is kind of one of the things that I've been asking for in this game for a long time. So I'm super excited about it. All right, so just a little bit further down this document, we have another huge change coming in here. Throws. This is something that a lot of people, at least in my local scene, have had some really strong opinions on the state of throws in this game, mainly being that throws are everywhere. They are super powerful. Brace is basically an auto-include card. Characters that can throw size 4 are massive threats. Very much a thing for a long time. People have been calling, at least in my local scene, for some form of nerf to throws, and here we have it. Throws for damage, damage from throws is now just a flat 3. Has nothing to do with the size of what you're throwing. Can be a trash can, can be a building, doesn't matter. 3 damage. You'll still get to roll your dodge, of course, so it's basically like everything is a size 2 for purposes of damage now. So the only value in being able to include size 3, or being able to throw size 3 or 4 terrain, rather, is that you have more things you can throw. There's no more advantage to that. And of course, if it's a character throw, that's still very relevant for being able to displace characters of that size. But you also no longer have that issue that, Sentinel players are very familiar with, but even myself, as someone who's played a lot of Hulk, and anyone who really has played any of the kaijus, knows, sometimes having your own model turned into a bowling ball against you can be absolutely brutal, and you don't have to worry about that anymore. I mean, it's, you're still taking what was previously a size 2 throw to the face, but that's a lot less scary than a size 3, 4, or potentially even size 5 throw. So yeah, that's going to be a huge deal for the game. It's making me look at characters that have size 2 only throws, where previously I'd been like, you know what, this character's throw is kind of meh because they're going to throw a couple size 2s and then that's kind of it. It's usually not worth using on a size 1. Where now I'm looking at all these size 1 pieces of terrain and I'm like, wow, this like 2 power throw on, for example, Luke Cage suddenly feels really, really good. Like, it was already kind of nice that it was there, but now I'm going to get a lot more value out of that. Whereas now I'm also looking at models like Hulk or other characters that can throw size 4 terrain, and I'm kind of like, their throw almost feels like it's gone down in value because it is going to be doing less damage than they used to be doing with it. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this is kind of rebalancing terrain throws just in the game as a whole. And I'm super excited to see what this is going to do. Does this mean we're not playing Brace as much anymore? Personally, I don't think so. I think we're still bringing Brace most of the time, but I don't think it's as necessary now. So it's kind of a weird toss up for me. I'm probably still playing Brace, but we'll see. Maybe that's just the wrong call. I'm not sure, and I'm kind of excited to find out. All right, we also have a handful of kind of less impactful, but definitely still relevant changes here. So beam and area attacks no longer can hurt your allies. That's a thing. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this one. I actually kind of liked the little bit of risk you kind of had to take, the extra decision point there of like, oh shoot, I didn't line up properly for my beam. I put my own guy in the way. That's a mistake, and I'm going to be punished a little bit for it. I did kind of like that, so I'm not sure how I feel about that being removed, especially since it was something your opponent could do too, to kind of make you think twice about it, especially if they had ways of positioning your models. They can kind of be like, listen, you're gonna get this beam one way or the other, but I'm gonna bow this character to walk in front of us, so that way you're gonna take out your own ally and drop one of your own objectives in the process. Now you have to think about that. So I do think that removes a little bit of depth there, but it's not that bad. Another small change here is that in terms of being allowed to pass, it no longer counts grunts. So that makes sense. So yeah, that was always a weird thing with, if you had grunts, you could effectively pass priority. And there were situations where that was really, really valuable. So not being able to do that anymore, I think it was always kind of a just side effect of the way the rules were written rather than an intended purpose. So that being removed really isn't a big deal. It definitely is a nerf to grunt characters, but I don't think it was ever really intended to be one of their strengths. Another one here that I actually think is going to be really, really relevant. They did update how rules priority works, so rules from crisis cards now have precedent. But character damage was updated so that dazed characters can be used by the opposing player to score VPs. That's going to be interesting. I don't know entirely how that's going to how that's going to play into things, but that's definitely going to be an interesting change that is gonna matter in probably a handful of ways going forward. Now, the other thing here is they've added an appendix for new objective token types. This one's an interesting one that I hadn't heard anything about prior to reading this article. So it has source tokens. They're a new type of extract, and they represent objects that create or store other items. So when a character interacts with a source token, they flip the source token to its exhausted side and pick up a set-aside asset or civilian token that behaves like the extract objectives you're used to. And then at the end of the round, non-source objective tokens are removed from the game. So this is kind of racking my brain. They've also added zone tokens, which have this like arc on them and basically can affect the special rules of that token. That also sounds really, really interesting. I'm curious to see how that's going to work. I'm thinking like gamma shelters could have really benefited from something like that. So that's kind of neat. They do have a couple examples here, which I'm hoping will kind of clear it up, because source tokens is really racking my brain right now. So we have jailbreak leads to mass mutant escape. This is a 20 threat extract. It's placed 4 unexhausted cell tokens, source tokens, so these 4 here, as shown on the map below. Set aside 4 prisoner tokens. Okay, so 4 prisoner tokens are off the board. Those are the 4 sources. So 1 VP for each character they control that is holding a prisoner during the cleanup phase. You interact with a cell to flip the cell and pick up a prisoner from it. Prisoners are limited. You cannot interact with a cell while you are already holding a prisoner. Okay. When a character holding a prisoner ends its activation, If it is within range 5 of any battlefield edge and not within range 1 of a cell, it drops that prisoner. Okay, so don't run away, basically. And then escape during the cleanup phase, remove all prisoners from the game, and flip each exhausted cell. Interesting. Wait, so there's only 4 points you can score in the entire game? Interesting. I need to read this again. Okay, no, I think I understand it. Saying remove from the game is just putting them back on the side of the board. So basically, they're extracts that you have to pick up every round in order to score them, is my understanding of this. If I'm understanding this wrong, let me know. But basically, you pick them up as if you were picking them up from like a secure that doesn't actually score any points. You pick them up from there by interacting with it, and you're now holding that extract. But at the end of the round, all the extracts are going to go back into the prison cells. All the prisoners will run back to the cells, basically, and you have to go get them out again. That's really interesting. I really like the idea of that. I think that's going to be really, really interesting. This one in particular feels like it's on a bit of a wide map, but I'm really curious to see how something like that might play in a little bit of a tighter scenario. Kind of bring us more towards like the E maps we used to have, or maybe like something like this on an eye or one of those like smaller squares could be really, really interesting. And then we have another one here, a secure this time, lockdown security systems stymie breakout. This is an 18 threats. So the setup, you're going to place 4 prison blocks. It's a square here. Cool. You're going to score 1 VP for each prison block you secure. Sure, fair enough. Characters can test prison blocks within 2 instead of 1. Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. During the cleanup phase, remove all damage tokens on prison blocks, then roll a die, put a damage token on the prison block marked with the matching result on the map below. The unmarked prison block matches the blank result. A prison block with a damage token on it cannot be interacted with, contested, or secured. Oh, interesting. So one of the prison blocks is going to turn off every turn, basically. And what is that? That's 2, 2 and 8, 2 and 8, 2 and 8, 2 and 8. Yeah, that sounds right. So it could be any of them. It's a perfectly even chance. And basically, one of the objectives will turn off every round after the first round. So the first round, you'll always be able to score your home points. After that, you might have to get aggressive. I really like that. That's going to force you, like your gun line list theoretically loves this layout, but that's going to force you to say, oh shoot, my back point's turned off. I need to go to them. Of course, it could work the other way. It could end up favoring the player who's advantaged by their current position and be like, they have to come to me. They already had to do that. And it's already bad for them. So that's an interesting one. I think that's going to be a little bit on the swingier side, but I do really, really like the concept. I think it's going to definitely, push for high mobility teams and things like that to really take advantage of it. So I do like that. If you build a list around having that in your secures, I think that'll be really fun to play on. And of course, the really, really exciting part for a lot of people is updated cards. We always love this. So, yeah, I mean, let's just jump right into it. I haven't looked at pretty much any of these yet, so we're just gonna go for it. First things first, Under Your Skin, the Professionals, and the Initiative were all updated. It says for clarity, so I'm assuming there's no actual rules changes made here. That seems to make sense to me. So yeah, I'm not gonna go through these two specifically because it sounds like it was just updated for clarity, but that's fine. The exciting part is when we get into characters, starting with Cassandra Nova, and I love that they've done this. They've actually explained what they changed, so I don't have to compare with the old card. Feels really, really good. So Cassandra Nova, they buffed up her injured side stamina from 6 up to 7 here. Mind Possession changed to Advanced Short instead of the character's speed. Okay, so a small nerf to Mind Possession there. Interesting. Flesh Manipulation is down to 3 power cost from 4. Yeah, that feels right. I mean, it's range 2, so that definitely makes sense. That feels like an appropriate spender now for a 5 threat. And Telepathic Cloak updated so that Cassandra gains an additional power in the power phase. Okay, yeah, that's actually going to be really big for Cassandra. Definitely power was one of her biggest problems before, so even with the slight nerf on the Mind Possession, I think that overall is actually that's going to be huge for her. Having access to a little bit of extra power is kind of all Cassandra's ever wanted. The extra stamina is certainly nice, and the buff to her spender is also nice. Range 2 on her spender still feels a little I wouldn't hate that being a range 3 attack instead of going down a power, but I think it's probably fine. She still does have the ability to manipulate other characters' movement and move them into range of things. So I think that's probably fine. And with the extra power she's gonna have, she'll be able to use it a little bit more often when they are there. So yeah, I think that's a huge step in the right direction for Cassandra. All right, I know this is one everyone's been really, really excited for is Sentinels themselves. Obviously, Cassandra being buffed is still buffed to the Sentinel affiliation, but the Sentinel models have really been the sore spot for Sentinel players for a long time. So the Mark IV, what has he got now? His physical defense is up to 4 from 3, and his mystic defense is down to 3 from 4. That's a long time overdue. Sentinels being weak to physical always felt a little weird. They have the cool tech against Mystic, so I think it's okay for them to have slightly less dice there. Makes sense. Their healthy side stamina went up by 1. Cool. I mean, yeah, they're going to be pretty bulky as 4 threats now. 4-4-3 with 8 stamina. That's going to feel pretty bulky to chew through. Plasma Blast is base strength 5 now, but you can only add 2 dice. That makes sense. I think I like that. That makes it actually like a really, really solid builder. I think it was for the most part fine before, but I think it's definitely better now. They've also added a really interesting superpower, acceptable collateral damage here. So this character may end an advance or climb partially overlapping interactive terrain features of size 2 or less. If it would, you destroy those terrain features before the movement ends. So basically, one of the issues Sentinels have had being large base models is sometimes on denser boards they have a hard time actually getting landing zones, and this is going to help with that. Your scatter terrain, your size 1 and 2 pieces of terrain, they're not going to have a problem with anymore. They're just going to remove them from the field, and that's also going to kind of get rid of things that can be thrown at them, which previously was a big weakness for them, although with the nerfs to throws and them going up to 4 physical defense, probably not as big of a weakness as it used to be, but still definitely good. They've also updated Sentinel programming so that allied superpowers can advance and push the character because, yeah, I mean, that was definitely a thing before. I don't know how often that was going to be coming up as a significant downside, but it would have been kind of awkward to be in that situation where you're in the middle of a game and you're like, aha, here's my trump card. I'm going to advance my own Sentinel up. You weren't expecting that. And then realize that you can't do it would feel pretty bad. So, yeah, that seems like it's mostly a cleanup thing. And then Plasma Leak injured side attack strength up to 5, gains 1 power, and the system overload trigger reworked to cause damage to every character within range 2 of the Sentinel. So, yeah, I mean, they buffed the attack. That makes sense. They still got a lot less health on this side, so that is still very much a thing. But, otherwise, yeah, they're going to feel a little bit better on the side than they used to. I mean, the Plasma Leak being a builder now is a thing, or rather a gainer, before damage gainer, interestingly enough. And then the system overload, I mean, making him lose a power actually makes that kind of awkward with it being before damage, but whatever. For Sentinel Prime, very similar changes. His physical defense had the same change and mystic defense as well. His stamina actually went down a little bit. He lost a point on both sides, but with the defense upgrades and the fact that Sentinel Prime was already kind of fine, that's fine. His Plasma Blast similarly went up by 1 strength and can only have 2 dice added. Makes sense. Suppression Protocols is up to range 4, so that's going to be really nice for him. He can actually pull things into range now, which he couldn't do before. So that makes sense. And yeah, that's restraint cables I'm thinking of. He always could do that. Suppression protocols now just has better range. That makes sense as well. It did lose a little bit of its strength. It's only 8 dice now, but the power cost also went down with it. That feels really good actually. A range 4 spender for 3, throwing 8 dice with a pretty good trigger on it. Yeah, I think that's actually really, really good. So yeah, that's solid. And then pattern analysis updated, so each character can reroll dice with it only once per turn. So a little bit of a nerf there. It's actually kind of interesting that they put some small nerfs in with Prime here. I think that's probably just future proofing because we are getting a lot of new Sentinels things that revealed with this update. So probably just preparing for the future with that one. And then they had the same update to Sentinel programming. So yeah, my theory here is the nerfs are they were just worried that Sentinels might be a little bit too strong after all their new stuff comes out with the buffs to the Sentinels and some of the buffs they were putting on Prime. And I think that's fine. I think making the reroll a once per turn, per character per turn rather, is totally reasonable, and everything else seems pretty reasonable. So yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with these changes. I'm actually really glad they toned down the health a little bit there too, because honestly, Prime was pretty bulky. And yeah, he's a 5 threat, but with the increases to his defenses, I think that's definitely warranted, especially with the nerfs to throws. So Yeah, I mean, obviously it's kind of hard to see because we didn't see a version of him where he only got the buffs and didn't get any of the nerfs. But I have a feeling that would have been just a little bit too good. So I'm glad to see they were kind of keeping that in check because Prime was always good. Another really exciting one is Dormammu. Okay, I haven't looked at this at all yet. So Shadow Bolt attack triggers updated to require failures instead of wilds. Okay, so he cares about skulls. That tracks. I mean, Dormammu likes his skulls. Dark Miasma trigger has been updated as well. Crit wild hit skull. What was it before? I wish they'd say that. Okay, it looks like they basically just changed the shield that it had before to a wild. So yeah, that's always been like an awkward one where you have the things that aren't actually successes in there. Cool. Flames of the Faultine updated to check to see if allied characters suffer damage from having too much power in the cleanup phase instead of the power phase. Okay, cool. So that's a small buff there. And then Master of the Realm of Darkness updated to add failure results to Dormammu's attack roll instead of just counting enemy failures as success. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. Yeah, I think that's just a cleanup thing the more that I read it. Yeah, that's still really good. So he still is encountered on defense though, which is interesting. I know that's something a lot of people were calling for him, but honestly, I think that's fine. I think Feel the Power of Darkness has always been a really good defensive tech, and his real issue has just been that he's kind of felt like he's all over the place. Making his trigger feel a little bit better, making his all of his triggers really feel just not even like more consistent. They have the same odds, but just being more in line with what he's doing. And then specifically with this counting your opponent's skulls not just as successes, but as a skull for yourself. Um, that is going to be good for hitting those triggers. So I also think that's going to be really, really neat. Let's say you're attacking a character with 4 defense. If they roll a skull, that's giving you a sap power, that's giving you a hex, that's giving you better odds on incantation of obliteration, etc. So, yeah, that feels really interesting. I think that's a really, really small overall buff to him. That's going to make his triggers feel a lot better, and hopefully that's enough. Because honestly, I've always been of the opinion that Dormammu is pretty close. He's just not quite there. I know a lot of people have been saying that he feels nowhere close to an 8 threat or anything like that. I've always been a little bit more on the boat of like, I think if you pushed him just a little bit, he'd be really, really good. So maybe this is enough. Maybe it isn't. We're going to find out. But I definitely am excited about this change. Looks like we have a small change to Widow 2. Healthy side, or both sides, stamina up by 1. That definitely feels nice for her. This is definitely the Widow that sees the least play, so her getting a small buff is nice, especially with Interrogate being a thing. Interrogate is, you know, a pretty solid superpower, but she was always kind of overruled by some of the other models in the affiliation. So that makes her an interesting kind of objective piece now at 3. She's got a little bit more durability, and I definitely think that's going to be appreciated on her. Hawkeye also getting a stamina increase here. That actually makes me consider Hawkeye. I was always my base issue for him was having that 4 stamina on the healthy side felt really, really bad. And going up to 6 on the injured actually makes him feel pretty solid defensively. So yeah, I mean the twos still suck, but like that's pretty nice. I'm a fan. Fury also getting some stamina increases. They're really pushing those stamina increases on Shield here. Yeah, Fury's going to be a big fan of this. He definitely was a model that went down a little fast sometimes. So you know, even with Eye in the Sky, this is going to help him a lot with that, I think. So yeah, totally for this. Shield agents just specify extract objectives instead of civilian or asset now. That's mostly just future proofing. They've added the new source ones, so yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. All right, looks like Emma's had some changes here. First to her normal side, we'll see if they change anything on the other side as well. So her hands-off trigger has been replaced with the Terrify trigger. Before damage is dealt, this character may advance the defender its speed away from this character. If it does, the defender suffers 1. Interesting. Okay, I think before it was like a throw or something like that, so that might be worse, but sure. I mean, its own speed is actually really, really good. If it's like a long mover or something like that, being able to run them way long. So maybe that's a side grade more than anything. In many cases, possibly a buff, especially with the changes to how throws work. It's just a wild trigger. So yeah, I mean, that's certainly a very usable spender. She's also gained the telepathic lash superpower. Choose an enemy character within range 3 of this character and roll 3 dice. The chosen character suffers 1 damage for each crit, wild, and hit rolled. If the superpower deals at least 1 damage, advance the chosen character small. The superpower can be used only once per turn. That's just good. That's like really good. You've got 50% odds, so your odds of getting one on the three dice is pretty good. And yeah, this is just great. Telepathic Lash is fantastic. Yeah, no notes. She can also diamond form on dodge now. Look at that. Yeah, that's, I mean, slightly less necessary now with the changes to dodge, or sorry, changes to throws, but it's still very much appreciated for her. So yeah, that's a thing. But she's lost the telekinetic deflection superpower. Okay, interesting. That actually is, never mind. That's a bit of a nerf-ish. Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna go with Nerf. Telekinetic deflection was quite good, but honestly, being replaced with telepathic lash, I think that's better, especially with the changes to throws. So, yeah, there is a nerf there, but I think overall she's still stronger. And of course, they did change her diamond side. I mean, that's the side that most people had issues with. So the shatter power cost is reduced to 5, sure. Sometimes one gonna get their hands dirty active superpower updated to be able to throw characters. Oh, okay, that's gonna feel really good for her. Yeah, size 3 character throw. That's gonna be great. Obviously, throws don't do as much damage as they used to, but character throws, turns out, are still pretty good. Far from my best look updated to allow transformation at the beginning of this character's activation. Oh, that's huge for her. That's something that a lot of people didn't like. However, it looks like she loses all of her power if she does it at the start. Interesting. Okay, so she's got to be really, really careful when she uses that. She needs to know that she wants to transform back and accept that she's going to have zero power when she does. But still, that's what people have been asking for a long time. So that definitely makes sense. And then looks like Psychic Immunity is updated the same way the Sentinels one was, so she can be advanced and pushed by allied characters, which again, that just feels like kind of the intended way for those things to work from the beginning. Professor X had a small buff as well. His injured side stamina went up to 6. Yeah, that's fine. I don't have any huge feelings about that. I mean, him being a squishy character kind of made sense, but also as a 4 threat leader, it could feel a little bad for sure if he just went down real quick on his injured side. So yeah, that's fine. Psylocke has a similar change, and that's actually a big deal on Psylocke. Psylocke is hard enough to take down sometimes. Counting blanks and having those rerolls makes her really defensive sometimes. So yeah, Psylocke, not a character I was expecting to see buffed here, but sure. Speaking of characters I didn't think were going to get a buff here, Star-Lord going up to 6 stamina from 5 on his injured. I mean, as a Guardians player, I'll take it, I guess. I don't think he needed this at all, but sure, he did feel squishy fairly often, so I'm not going to say no. Oh, Yondu's also getting a health buff. Okay, Yondu is definitely a character that I love Yondu. I think he was really good from the start, but him having a little bit of extra stamina is going to feel really nice for him. And it seems like that might just kind of be the direction they're taking the game, is they're increasing the bulk on a lot of characters here, which I'm all for. I like a little bit more drawn out attrition-y games, so having a little bit more health, not being one-shot as often, just feels good. And yeah, Yondu is definitely one of those models where I didn't feel like he quite had the defensive tech that I wanted him to have to stay alive super often. So that feels really nice for him. Oh, and that's the end of it. That's all the characters that they're updating here. All right, so mostly just stamina changes, but lots of them. And then a handful of really meaningful ones. Obviously, the Emma changes were huge. And then the Sentinels, and of course Dormammu, having some really meaningful changes on their cards. This is really interesting. I'm curious to see this kind of in relation to the new characters and things that are coming out, but this is definitely something I am very excited about. Lots of cool changes here, and I'm just really glad that we've kind of gotten to the point where we're seeing semi-regular rules updates and erratas and things like that. I think that's really good for the health of the game, and just making affiliations like the Sentinels affiliation feel good for those players that have been really excited and really waiting to be able to put their Sentinels on the board. I definitely know a handful of players who are in that boat. Same for Dormammu, and yeah, I'm really happy about this. I think a lot of the models that got touched here were models that were very deserving of that, and yeah, this is definitely, I think all the health increases definitely smaller updates, but I think we're gonna notice them. I think it's gonna mean we're gonna see a little bit more Hawkeyes. I mean, Guardians are already being played, but we're gonna see people not feeling as much like Star-Lord's kind of the weak link of the Guardians. Yeah, I'm overall pretty happy with these changes. So definitely let me know what you guys are thinking on these changes down below, specifically the rules changes as well, how you guys think that's going to shake up the games. Throws are totally different now. It's going to be an entirely different mindset when it comes to throws, which I'm really excited about. Turn 0 is going to be huge. Super excited to see how that's going to play out. Just so many major game changes here. I'm really excited to see what this game is going to play like going into future games with these new rules. So definitely excited for that. But that is going to do it for my initial thoughts and impressions here. So as I said before, definitely let me know what you guys are thinking down below. Very curious to hear your guys' thoughts. But that's going to do it for this video. So until next time, have a great day, everybody. Peace.